paramedic, we have Blaine Marlow. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have EMS Chief Gary Langerock. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us as well. So National EMS Week we were just talking about, and this kind of is a time to maybe focus a little bit on just the EMS and kind of a little behind the scenes maybe. Is that kind of why they highlight it, you think?
Yeah, it is exactly. Yeah. Just the role that EMS plays in daily lives of people around the country. You know, there's going from early times, years and years back, how there was no EMS system within the United States. You know, we could get into the history of all that. And so it is quite a long history, but EMS really is in its kind of in its infancy, I guess, if you will, as what, especially in the United States, you know, going back years, it was actually as far back as the Romans, they were actually probably the first civilization that actually had some form of a medical corps. And then going through the years, you know, Napoleon actually started the first flying ambulance. And then it wasn't until the early 1900s, 1960s is when it kind of, well, actually in the Civil War is when it really kind of first took hold in the United States as far as some form of EMS or medical corps. And then fast forwarding to today. And so, you know, really when you look at the history of the world, it's somewhat in its infancy. And, you know, we just want to, bring some recognition to all the EMS providers that are out there.
Yeah. And so when they do this, they kind of, they put together like a theme. And then we were talking off air too, like each day kind of has a little bit of a theme highlight. What is this year's theme?
This year is improving outcomes together. So specifically today, Tuesday, they kind of talk about it's more of a EMS safety day. So it kind of goes into focusing on the risk and prevention of our EMS professionals, keeping us healthy, you know, that type of stuff, I guess.
So you talk about mental health. We were talking a little too off air about this team that you're kind of part of, right? It's CISM?
Yeah, yep, CISM. Okay. So our critical incident stress management team, you know, like we kind of mentioned, there's some myself and 3 other guys at the fire department that are on that, as well as some PD guys. So yeah, it kind of highlights throughout the state if there's, you know, a specific call that maybe troubled a paid or volunteer department, that we're available, you know, for debriefing to come and talk to them and kind of get some things figured out to try to help them. So,
and I mean, when we talk about it, it sounds like it's, you know, I don't know if comments like it's just normal, but really, I suppose you guys are open to, you know, some trauma yourself, you know, like vicariously through what you have to deal with, you know, daily or so on. Is that kind of, I mean, is that accurate? Like sometimes that stuff can affect you guys and you need to decompress, if you will, debrief.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, the nice thing we always talk about is, you know, you work 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So you're always with your specific shift. So the guys at the department are almost like family. So, you know, if you get done with you know, kind of a tougher call, you could say, the nice thing is you almost get your own debriefing, just hanging out with the guys and talking about the call and kind of working through the kinks, I guess, of it. And that makes it pretty easy to move past it. So,
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, but I mean, sometimes you deal like a difficult call can be, you know, you can deal with death. You can deal with all sorts of different variables, of course. I mean, sometimes they can be, maybe gruesome is one word, but there's so much different complexity that you guys deal with there. So what other kind of themes have they put together for you guys? Is there like each day is like a little party or a dress up day like homecoming, or what what do they do?
Gary, I don't know if you can touch on that.
Yeah, like I said, this is like I said, it's National EMS Week. So it was originally established by President Gerald Ford in 1974.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is put on by the American College of Emergency Physicians and the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians is who the main sponsors of EMS Week is. And it's, so the theme, improving outcomes together. So each day has its theme. It's nationwide. So it's not just South Dakota. It's not just Watertown. It's nationwide. So we talked a little bit, like I said, Sunday was Health and Wellness Day, making sure that all our providers, EMS providers, maintain their mental health and wellness. Monday was Education Day. So kind of focuses on more education for EMS providers. We do have to recertify every 2 years our certification through the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. And then we are licensed through the state Board of Medical Osteopathic Examiners also every 2 years. So we have a certification and a license that we have to renew every 2 years. So we have to have 60 hours of continuing education every 2 years. So there's always education that we can do throughout the day, throughout the week and month to get those 2 years. We also focus on advanced cardiovascular life support and pediatric advanced life support. So we do those every year also, because those certifications also expire every 2 years. So there's a lot of education and certification that goes into this. So, and just the way the medical field in general is changing, there's always some new procedure, some new piece of equipment that, they're doing research on every day to what's going to improve the outcome for patients when they do call 911. Then we do have, like I said, Tuesday was EMS Day. Wednesday is EMS for Children Day. As we all know that, sometimes people like to think of children as little adults. Well, they are, but they're their own group of, they have specialties physiologically, psychologically. It's much different dealing with children than it is with adults. So there's special circumstances for those. Thursday was Save a Life Day. Friday is EMS Recognition Day, and then Saturday is EMS Remembrance Day. So big one there is remembering all those EMS professionals that have, whether died in the line of duty. That's kind of the big one that we like to kind of focus on, if, especially like the volunteer services out there. There are a number of volunteers in EMS, and especially when you're dealing with traffic accidents, traffic driving by, there's a much bigger chance for someone to be injured or killed while working on a scene. So it's we want to remember those that have given their life for pursuing EMS.
Yeah. And so partial to that, the like the move over law was put in to effect as well too. So I mean, just to try to also to bring like attention to slowing down and moving over, not just to make it illegal, but I know there's been so many complications, even with bad weather. You'd think people would slow down, foggy or snowy, and they're still just whipping by. So I've seen it, but
yeah, there's been a few close calls with individuals in our department that, and that's one of the reasons too why we have a big red fire truck. We always, if you ever see an accident scene on the highway, we try and position the truck so it's protecting that scene. So you've seen those trucks. They're big and they're heavy. They're hopefully easily recognizable with the lights that are flashing. So if someone should happen to not see it, at least there's that protection for the scene, for us, for law enforcement, for, whoever may be on that scene working.
And so they, you touched on a little bit too, like the technology has changed a lot and continues to change. One of the pieces of equipment I can remember coming onto was the CPR, right? I think it does the automatic for it. So maybe if you somebody want to talk about that for a second, but it just, I mean, that I'm sure it significantly changed the outcome of people's survival rate. Is that the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of say the Lucas is almost another person there. You know what I mean? So being able to use that on, we carry one on each of our ambulances. So basically, does compressions at the perfect depth and ratio always, versus if I was doing it over time, I'm probably going to get tired. This thing continues to basically have perfect compressions and holds that ratio. And it's another person for you. So,
and like you, I mean, it just kind of goes over their chest and then I don't know, an arm
and
comes
an arm
down.
comes down basically. Yeah. It
Just-
kind of wraps around their chest and then you push it tight to their skin, to their chest. And then, it starts doing compressions for you. So,
Wow. Okay. And the even like the stretcher, if that's the right term, those have changed where sometimes even one person can kind of operate it. You know how they load up and everything.
yeah, that's one thing I guess I'm pretty proud of that Watertown Fire Rescue has is our striker steer chairs and our cots. So the it's kind of protects us in a way because we're able to just hook it up and it automatically raises the patient. Now I can even say in my short career when I first started, you used to have to actually hold them and then lift the legs up and then put them in. Now it's all automatic. You hook it up and automatically lifts them and you can place them in without you could have a variety of different weights of patients and it kind of saves the guy's back, especially if you have a little bit heavier person. So
yeah, I mean it's realistic. There's like 400 or 500 pound people out there,
yeah,
and one person to try to lift that. And I just think of movies, you kind of push it up against the back and then maybe one of the wheels flips up and it's like never that easy. So and I suppose you roll up to a scene and there may be multiple victims or individuals that need assistance. So you can't always have 2-on-1, right? You might be separated that way too sometimes. So
yeah, absolutely. They kind of say every EMS call is different, every 911 call is different. So different natures. There could be multiple patients on scene as well. So
and I suppose being in a smaller community too, it's inevitable you come up to a scene or have that you might know the individuals too. Does that make that a little bit more difficult?
Yeah, I guess I've been fortunate enough that I haven't had too many of those calls, but I feel like if you get a close friend or a family member, that would definitely make the call a lot more challenging. So
yeah. Anything you've dealt with before?
Well, I said, I've been in Watertown here. Well, I started here in Watertown in 2000. So I've been here for a few years. Then, I grew up around the area. I was originally from Castlewood, so I went to school there. And in all the years I've been on the ambulance, knock on wood, I have never had to one of my family members. There's obviously been people I've known that been to ambulance calls on, but never anything real serious that was life and death situation. So, but I know of people that have been on family members, and it again, that's why we have those SISM teams, and that's why when we go back to the station, that's kind of our own way to debrief, if you will, talking with the crews that are on the shift with you and we're on the call with you to kind of help ease that a little bit more.
And you had mentioned it too, like a lot of the individuals are volunteer. Watertown's fortunate to, have paid positions, but a lot of our rural communities, and I think there's only a handful in the whole state that are actually like paid, but then they're all volunteers. So they have to do this training and things like that kind of all on their own time and get together and figure it all out on their own, kind of, right? I guess.
yeah. Plus also having a regular job in that. So they're kind of, I guess, I feel like sometimes undervalued in what the volunteers do, especially around Watertown. There's definitely times where we go outside of Watertown for calls and you kind of work alongside the volunteers. So they're definitely needed and helpful on those, to have the extra hands there before we can get there. So
do you guys deal with like funding too? I think funding's kind of changed a lot over the years and that fluctuates up and down. So even volunteer versus like a community, we have probably some city, funding and things like that, where even the smaller communities, they have to get grants and things like that. But you guys have gotten some grants too for some different equipment, right?
We do. We get grants occasionally for different things. whether it's on the fire side or the EMS side. We do get grants for certain things, and yeah, for these small services, these small communities, volunteers, it's even that much more difficult for them because they don't have the population in their cities to be able to purchase a new ambulance and the new equipment. And as as the years go by, prices just keep going up and up, and it's getting to a point where to buy a new ambulance, the cost is so high, and what's brought in from revenue from those ambulance calls, the gap is starting to widen. That's why we hear so much of, some volunteer services are in jeopardy of losing their service because they can't afford to purchase the equipment. They don't have the staff to volunteers to run the ambulances anymore like they used to. So it's that's why we really want to thank those individuals in those smaller communities for what they do, because like I said, we get paid for what we do, and it's I've loved every minute of this job since I've been in it. They generally don't get paid anything. They're volunteering. They have regular jobs. So really want to make sure we thank them, thank their employers also for allowing them to leave their jobs to go on those calls and protect those patients that are in their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I know at different meetings I've covered, they talk about the small time frame that you have, when someone's in like a cardiac arrest and things like that. But I guess anyone that's having a medical emergency, it's limited time, and you want to get there as quick as you can and get them to a hospital. So when they're there to help, and that any of that helps. So are there some things that you wanted to that you would want to touch on that, I don't know, people aren't familiar with EMS? It's something like do you have a common thing people ask you about, or anything like that over the years that sticks out? Sometimes like, oh, I didn't know that you guys always do this, or we wish people would know about this, or something like that.
I guess I was going to say people, I think, sometimes get it confused. Our ambulance is basically like an ER on wheels. We're able to do a lot of things that people don't realize. They think we're just there to load them up and bring them to the hospital. But, on scenes, we have to stabilize them and, try to get them taken care of before we even get to the hospital, whether that's, I guess we could go into a lot of detail about that, whether it's our life packs, or, maybe needing to slow their heart down or speed it up or defibrillate them, or, different medications we carry to kind of treat them. Yeah, I think people kind of forget that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you think that you just grab them and you're trying to make sure that they're like alive, and then just throw them in the vehicle, and you're trying to get there as quick as you can. But you're actually doing medical procedures right there on the side of the road or wherever. But
and like I said, emergency room on wheels, because we, in our ambulances, we carry a lot of the same medications, a lot of the same equipment that will be used in the emergency room. So, in that respect, it's very similar. Talking, the most serious of calls, you have major trauma calls, or like I said, cardiac arrest. We do enter information. It's called the CARES registry, stands for Cardiac Arrest to Enhance Survival. So it's nationwide. There's many EMS agencies input data into this registry for survival rates. So just a couple quick notes on that. So the national average, someone goes into cardiac arrest, the national average for survival is only about 10.5% nationwide average. So someone goes into cardiac arrest right here, right now, they have a 10% chance of survival. So, and we, from this registry, we just started last year, entered the first full year of information into this registry. So I guess I'm pretty proud to say that here in Watertown, there's a couple different metrics they track as far as survival to hospital admission, survival to hospital discharge, and then survival, what they call neurologically intact. So they have no neurological symptoms from that cardiac arrest that they had. So the national average is about 10.5%. Here in Watertown specifically, the numbers, we're at about 17.5% survival. So it's
Mhm.
better than the national average. It still could be much better than that, but I guess I say we're pretty proud of that. Our paramedics that are on scene, getting these treatments early CPR, early defibrillation, early ambulance arrival, hospital admission, hospital care,
Mhm.
all helps increase that survival rate.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I never would have guessed that it was that low, So is there anything that people can do? Does it actually work to pop a bear or anything like that if you think that you're having a heart attack or anything like that?
Biggest thing there is recognizing the symptoms,
Yeah.
for those bystanders, and, kind of going back to those numbers, there is, I believe, 58% of those cardiac arrests occurred in the home.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 37% occurred in public. Then the other 5% was in nursing homes, assisted living. So, early recognition by family members, people who are on scene to recognize that something's happening or they're maybe going into cardiac arrest or something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't seem right, call 911.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it turns out to be nothing, we're going to show up. We'll do an assessment. If it turns out to be nothing, great. But if it turns out they go into cardiac arrest, the sooner we can get there, the better. And if they do go into cardiac arrest, a person's chance of survival decreases 10% every minute that they're not receiving CPR. So
Okay.
that's why it's so important for the community. If you see someone in cardiac arrest, start CPR as quickly as possible. And if someone doesn't know CPR, which kind of goes back to, I believe, Thursday was Save a Life Day. So if anyone out there is, think, CPR would be good for them, find a class that teaches CPR, or our 911 dispatchers down at the police department, they are very good at being able to coach someone through how to place your hands, how to do CPR. That's the main thing, get that, get those compressions going as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of sounds like then, like with cardiac arrest, it's maybe not like movies all the time where someone grabs their arm and says, oh, I think, something's wrong. That it doesn't always come across that way, right? It can be slower.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've definitely gotten to, patients that appear like they're doing okay, and they've actually gotten into cardiac arrest on scene with us. So it's definitely not like the classic, grab their heart and tip over,
Mm-hmm. So. And then there's like a difference between like a stroke, right? And like a heart attack itself. And that can kind of come on slow in a sense too. Like people can, I don't know which one's right. So like you can have multiple strokes, right? And maybe not even necessarily know that until you have like a big cardiac arrest. Would that be the right way to put it?
Yeah, more kind of along the lines of, you could have, they're called like TIAs, almost mini strokes before you have a full CBA. So yeah, the symptoms are kind of different depending on, I guess what you have going on. So,
so just exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a new, I believe I've seen a few commercials there, when talking about signs and symptoms of a stroke, they also always said fast, to remember that, was your facial droop, arm weakness, slurred speech, and time. Well, now they've added the B in front of that. I have seen a few commercials. They're talking about that. So the BE stands for balance, and I believe it's eyes.
Yep.
So
Okay.
if you're loss of vision in one or both eyes, if your balance is unsteady, and actually the T now kind of stands for severe headache.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things to look for, if someone may be suffering from a stroke. Same thing applies, anyone that's complaining of chest pain or having some chest pain, center of their chest radiates to either arm, their back, their jaw. Those, don't put those off as, I just got some heartburn. Maybe I exercised, maybe I pulled a muscle. Have those checked out just as a precaution.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe especially if you're not the healthiest person ever, and you like a little extra cookie here and there. And, you get to a certain, I suppose physicals are important with your checkups, but once you get to a certain age too, that's just something that you need to be careful of. So, is there some more things that you wanted to touch on with EMS week too? I want to make sure that we get all that stuff out as I kind of went off on a tangent, but
You could, or I guess our yearly call volume, we run 3,251 to be exact, ambulance calls or 911s a year. So that averages out now
About 5 to 8 per day.
So some days it could be 18, some days it could be 1, but yeah, the average around that. And then we also average about 1 interfacility transfer a day, whether that's bringing a patient from Prairie Lakes Hospital to Sanford or Rivera and Sioux Falls. We go as far as Rochester, Fargo. So we average about 1 of those a day as well. So
wow. Okay. And you're also firefighters. So like all of you are a firefighter and all of you are paramedics. So you might be on a call and then a fire happens and vice versa, right? So
yeah, the cool thing about Watertown, we're trained in just about everything you could be trained in. So, for today, my job is actually I'm on the fire truck, but my next shift day I could be on the ambulance or, we have guys move around all day long. So yeah, you kind of got to be well versed in it all, so.
Wow. And does it matter, like you guys work all day or all hours of the day? Like you kind of rotate with that where you'll be in the middle of the night working too or whatever?
Yeah. Like I kind of touched on earlier, we work 1 day on, so 24 hours on and then 48 hours off. So we have kind of our daily duties or daily work hours, but yeah, we're there at every hour of the day. So there could be a call at any minute of the day and we'd be ready for it. So.
Wow. Okay. So 24, you get a nap in there though, if you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
At night, yep. As long as there isn't calls. So.
Okay. At least they give you a little nap in your 24 hours. I know it's like 2 15s and a half hour. You're supposed to get something legally, but anything else, Gary, that you brought that you want to make sure we get out there to cover for the EMS week?
I think we, pretty much covered everything. I said, just, remember all your community EMS providers. And, if anyone out there is thinking they might, especially smaller communities that you live there, if anyone is thinking that, I'd like to maybe volunteer my time to even if it's driving an ambulance, if you don't want to go as far as to be an EMT, by all means, talk to your local EMS providers, your small towns, get in contact with them because they're always in need of EMS personnel. The fire side, they usually do a little better, but it's getting more difficult for them to find people to be on their ambulances. So if anyone out there is, looking to maybe volunteer a little bit of time to be on an ambulance, by all means, contact your local EMS providers in your local communities and, see how you could help out.
Just less people maybe volunteering. Is that kind of what they're running into, huh? That's kind of interesting because we obviously have more people than we did 20 years ago or whatever, but less volunteers. So
and that's one of the things they're trying to they're doing a summer study. It's been bills trying to go through the legislature the past few years to find some way to get some more funding for rural EMS, especially these rural areas. And even in South Dakota, we have, they call super rural areas. So you may have 20, 30 miles or more from the ambulance to where you are. So again, time is of the essence a lot of times. So they'll be doing a summer study, some of the legislatures this year to try and figure out how a way that they can get some more funding for rural EMS to kind of help out these small services so that they remain viable and they don't have to shut their doors.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always been a little interesting to me that what you do and all the volunteers are literally to be called upon to try to help save someone's life. or get someone out of trouble, or the fire side of it as well. And but it's it's underfunded, and all these things that should be kind of opposite to me. Like, it should be one of the priorities in our communities and our nation, to have first responders. Like, oh, we need to have this number one, and then we'll move on to whatever. So yeah, definitely appreciate everything that you guys do. I know over the years I've written a lot of stories, and I always think about that every time we put one together and put it out, just picturing for a minute what you guys had to go through. And I mean, if it's 400 below outside, and the day that one of the bars was burning down, I mean, that's something that's kind of a historic thing, I think, now on pictures and stuff. But it's ridiculous kind of what is expected of you guys, and you just go and run into it. So we appreciate everything that you do, and I hope everyone else takes a minute, not just during these weeks, but all the time, to kind of say thank you for what you do. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Well, is there anything else you guys need to get out, or shout outs to girlfriends or wives or grandmas or anything like that? We're all good.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thanks again for what you guys do. Appreciate it. And look forward to the next time we get you guys in here. So thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. We'll get back to some music here on Northeast Radio SD.